And welcome back. Now, sustainability and the circular economy, areas we've heard a lot about over the last few days. And of course, it's something that everybody is looking at. Various cities around the world are doing so much when it comes to the circular economy. So we're very, very excited to have a look now at what's going on in the city of Phoenix in Arizona in the USA. And I'm delighted to introduce to us the Deputy Director for Public Works from the city of Phoenix. So please welcome Brandie Barrett. Let's hear what's going on there.
For you, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining. I'm delighted to be here with you all today. Our Reimagine Phoenix initiative launched in 2013, and our goal was twofold. It was really to improve our waste diversion to landfill to 40% by the end of the year 2020, and it was also designed to help us achieve a circular economy. We really wanted to redefine the way we looked at waste and really look at it more as a resource than as garbage. And so we implemented a threefold strategy to achieve these aggressive goals. The first was to really educate our community about waste diversion and its possibilities, introduce the concept of circular economy to them, but also really to get back to the basics on how to recycle more and recycle right. We knew we could deliver improved programs that were designed to make it more convenient for customers to divert waste, and also to make it convenient for entrepreneurs and manufacturers to transform waste and to use those as feedstock. And the third strategy, which is the one I'll focus on with us today, is really working on the public-private and public-public partnerships, because as a city organization, we know we couldn't do it alone. And we really needed to work and engage, reach out to those experts in business and industry, and also in research to help us build out our strategy and programs. But before an organization can endeavor to develop a circular economy, you really have to find supporters and backers who believe in it. So in order for the city to gain the support of our elected leaders as well as our executive leaders, we had to do a few things. The first of which is we really needed to get smart about what resources were in our waste stream. So we conducted a waste characterization study, and that really allowed us to identify the biggest levers that we could push to help us improve that diversion as quickly as possible. And then we had to educate and help our leaders understand the concept of circular economy, the possibilities, and the economic and environmental benefits of circular economy. And then working together to develop the right policies to support circular economy, identifying financial support and approvals by working with those leaders. And that led us to adopt the 40% diversion by 2020 goal. And then again in 2016 to go further and adopt a zero waste by 2050 goal as part of the City of Phoenix sustainability goals policy. And then after that, we knew we needed again to reach out, to network, to bring in those partners, and not just business partners, but scholarly partners as well. Very early in our journey, we realized that achieving our goals would not only require us to radically reimagine what we consider to be trash, but it would require us to reach beyond the traditional boundaries of our business. So we started thinking, what if we leveraged the combined resources of Arizona State University and the City of Phoenix to develop sustainability solutions through research, education, innovation, and entrepreneurship? And that really led us to work together to establish the Resource Innovation and Solutions Network. We call it RISN for short. And RISN really was developed with a mission in mind to accelerate the global transition to sustainable resource management and circular economy. RISN has brought together corporations, small businesses, manufacturers, and researchers, as well as regional governments to discover what opportunities there are to convert city waste into marketable products. So the City of Phoenix partners with RISN and ASU in two key ways. And the first is through practical applied projects, where they bring their deep expertise to bear on challenges that we as the city face when trying to implement circular economy initiatives. So in addition to that work, ASU's research really helped us realize that we have the opportunity to look inward and identify what assets the city has to bring to that table. Assets such as land, facilities, staff, of course, the feedstock in our waste and recycling streams, things of that nature. And so we really began to look internally for what resources that we could develop and deploy to support the development of a circular economy. And we were able to identify 50 acres of underutilized property right next to the building where the city's trash and recyclables are sorted to create our circular economy hub known as the Resource Innovation Campus, or RIC for short. The goal at the RIC is to lease land at very competitive rates to manufacturing partners who then can use feedstock from the waste and recycle stream and transform them into new goods right there on site. It was also designed to serve as a learning hub for research of new manufacturing processes, and it's where we built our very first compost facility. We realized that we could move the needle by creating solid waste programs that promote a circular economy, keeping resources in use for as long as possible, and then really by having systems in place that recover and regenerate products and materials locally. So we also partnered internal to the city organization with our community and economic development department. And we have used our procurement process in a very creative way to engage the business and manufacturing community. The very first thing we did was issue a request for information, but we called it a call for innovators, where we used the information we learned in our waste characterization study about what resources we had, and we put it out to the manufacturing community, and we said, we have these resources, can you use them? If you can, how much would you need? What condition would you need those resources to be in to be able to redeploy them back into your processes? And we received over 100 responses from all over the world in various product categories. And so we used that and the information from that response, as well as our knowledge about our feedstock, to start to target specific requests for proposals out to the community. And so the items on your screen you're seeing, those are some of the programs that spun out of those requests for proposals processes. And each of those had some successes and some challenges along the way. Palm fronds, we were able to divert 3,200 tons of palm fronds. Phoenix is a very sunny location. We have a lot of palm trees, but we also ran into some challenges in that when we estimated our usage, we based it on a study that was conducted during actually a high season. And we didn't, because we were so new in it, we didn't necessarily realize that that wasn't representative of the entire year. And so, so these are the types of things that you learn along the way. And I'll talk about a little bit more about lessons learned as we get on in the presentation. All right. So we've had some additional challenges as well, but really want to focus on some of the positive outcomes that have developed from those challenges. They really do present opportunities, and that's how we have viewed them here at the City of Phoenix. Of course, China's sword policy has impacted recycling industry worldwide. Many have reduced recycling, and in some places they've stopped recycling altogether. That's not the approach we took at the city. We were able to continue our operations, and recycling is an integral part of our circular economy efforts, among others as well. But one of the positive outcomes is that it really challenged us at all levels here in the U.S. to develop new markets and to find ways to support development of those, an emergence of new end markets, and a new push for innovators to really find a reuse for diverted materials as locally as possible. Of course, we've all experienced the impacts of the global COVID-19 pandemic. On the bright side, on the positive side, innovations in packaging have developed single-use packaging, and plastics are being used widely again. We do know also there's been a resurgence in the paper cardboard market, as well as plastics, HDPE, and aluminum because of the stay-at-home guidelines and increase in home deliveries. And then with the economic downturn that resulted, of course, we experienced a lot of restaurants closing, businesses closing, impacts to tourism, manufacturing industry was affected, and jobless rates have gone sky high, higher than we've ever seen them before. But on the positive side, we have seen more and more our big brand partners stepping up to find new ways to reduce waste materials, to create new industries and manufacturing processes that do need new workforces. And we've seen them look internally to their own processes as well to identify where there's waste and how to plug that back in to productive use. So earlier I mentioned that our partnership with Arizona State University and the Resource Innovation and Solutions Network has two main features. One is those practical applied projects. The other one here is the Incubator and the Circular Economy Incubator. And this really was a vision of both organizations. It was outlined in our foundational intergovernmental agreement document that created the partnership. And when we got together, we knew there were items in the waste stream that had value, that were just sitting in the landfill or on their way to the landfill, that could be redeployed back into the economy, but there just didn't exist an economically viable alternative to get them there. And so our push here was to create an incubator, an accelerator to help those emerging startups help solve for those problems. And so just the incubator launched in 2018 with funding support from the city, from ASU, and the US Economic Development Administration. It was really focused on ventures in the early stages of waste to product and waste to energy innovation, aiming to close the loop on solid waste. And in just 2 short years, the incubator has had tremendous success, working with 19 distinct clients and 246 mentoring and coaching sessions with experts from every industry. The businesses that participated were able to raise almost $4 million in capital, and sell 4.41 million on their business side, launch 25 new products. So together you can see we're truly activating local entrepreneurs and finding innovative ways to create regenerative products, support new startups, and generate economic value from waste that cities would traditionally send to landfill. And we're still moving forward. We have been working on a plastics to fuel. That was our most recent request for proposals. We were very open to different types of outcomes. If it would be plastics to plastics, plastics to fuel. We were not looking to do any type of burning or anything like that, but definitely wanting to create and try to retain things at their highest and best use. We did get several responses to our solicitation on creating fuel from our plastics 3 through 7. Prior to China Sword, we did have a market for those materials. That market went away, and all of a sudden we had this feedstock that we were able to divert that we couldn't anymore, and that was not preferred. We didn't like that, so we thought, well, let's throw it out there to the community. And so, of course, COVID-19 has impacted that, and we're still working with our prospective vendor to modify the program in a way that's going to work for the economic times that we're in, and also just to continue to push that forward by running a pilot of that project. So that's under development. And then recently, our city economic development department did issue an RFP to identify partners to transform one of our old landfills in a business and community development opportunity. And really excited that we will be having a 20-acre park for production and distribution of food as an agri-food innovation center. We'll have a community park with farmers markets, farm-to-table restaurants. Those are really much needed in that location because it is considered a food desert. And then economic and fiscal study estimates $868 million in annual economic activity. And then of course the city would benefit from that as well, from construction tax and some additional revenue that didn't exist before development of that parcel. So, and then of course we'll also be focusing on education around sustainability and food waste, mitigating food waste for visitors to that park. So really exciting opportunities there. So to kind of talk about some of the lessons learned, when you embark on very exciting and aggressive opportunities to improve diversion, you're going to encounter some challenges along the way, and you really have to be a little bit robust and welcome those challenges. So for us, the way that we kind of did that was, really by determining our support system and identifying the right partnerships. Of course, you want to mitigate for those challenges where you can. You have to understand your data and your assets. What do you have to bring to the table to leverage? Because it really truly does take a team to make this work. You have to be prepared to pivot and make changes to your strategy. Things are going to pop up, and try to be light on those pivots. Communicate the positives. Really important to regularly communicate the progress and even the obstacles that you're overcoming and how you're going about doing that. And don't be risk averse. Take some risks, welcome challenge, welcome shortcomings, and really use them as learning opportunities. So with that, that is my presentation. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and welcome any questions you might have.
And Brandie, thank you so much. The Deputy Director of Public Works there in the city of Arizona in Phoenix. A beautiful spot in the US, of course, but tremendous work that you've already put in place. And Brandie, if I might ask you, you've mentioned, of course, that the city had partnered with Arizona State University, on practical applied projects. I mean, this is so exciting, like blending academia and indeed real projects. But can you give me an example, perhaps, of a project and the impact that it had, after it was completed?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for that question. I really am quite passionate about our partnership with Arizona State University because to me it is a great example of the sum being greater than the parts. And what I mean by that is we were really able, through a number of different applied practical projects, to take their deep research expertise. They spanned all different fields. And apply them to some of the everyday real world challenges that we face here at the city when we're implementing circular economy initiatives. So one concrete example that I'll share is earlier in my presentation, I referenced the city's very first compost facility. So a couple of years ago, I want to say 2017, we opened a gorgeous Envision Silver certified compost facility at our Resource Innovation campus that has the capacity to process 55,000 tons of green waste. One of the new programs that the city had implemented and still has in place is a pilot for curbside green organic collections. We knew from our waste study that we, as a city, generate a great deal of green waste. And what that means, it's like the tree trimmings, the yard clippings, bush clippings. Whenever you, tidy up your yard or your lawn, it creates this green waste, right? And a lot of that was going straight to landfill. And so we knew that would be a great opportunity. And sure enough, once we launched the compost facility, it did not take us long to reach capacity. So the way we have that structured is we have a third-party operator who operates our city equipment on our city site, and they create the compost commodity out of that green waste, and then they sell it to the market, right? So one of the lessons that we learned through that is that the market for compost in Arizona really needed some development. And so when you're trying to implement circular economy initiatives, you kind of have to think about the whole life cycle, right? So you're thinking about the input, the output, and is there a market for what's coming out? And there was, but it needed to be developed and nurtured. So we started to think, okay, well, we have this wonderful compost that's been created through this process. Could we use it internal to city operations? And so we talked with our Parks and Recreation Department. They manage thousands of acres of flatland parks, many sports and recreation fields that they use chemical fertilizers on, and they have traditionally used that. And so we embarked on this conversation, and a part of what was missing, the gap, was research to help make the case for the use of compost. And so if we used compost, what impacts would that have on the soil? What impacts would that have on water usage? Would the cost be different? What would the logistics look like? And so we engaged our partners at ASU, and we completed a multi-year turf study. They were able to take samples and measurements, send them to the lab, have them analyzed for things that I would never even think of, like the micro and macronutrient compost or content of the soil after compost application versus a test field, and really help us over time identify, do we have an internal market? How could we use this as our own operation? So that's one example. Another one briefly, the city of Phoenix, we have not traditionally used recycled asphalt in our pavement mix. And so we, again, reached out to our partners at ASU. They have that deep scientific knowledge and lab research component, and we're able to engage them in looking at a study if we use recycled asphalt pavement on city streets in a very unique climate. We do have a very extreme climate here, particularly in the summertime when the temperatures rise in the 110s upward to 120. It's been as hot as 122 in my recollection. That's extreme and not usual, but it does get hot. And so we really needed to understand what would the impacts to that pavement be. And so we were able to do that. And now our street transportation department has their own intergovernmental agreement with ASU to look at expanding that and using it even further. So those are some examples of how the sum is greater than the parts on that really amazing partnership between the city of Phoenix and Arizona State University.
And indeed here, Brandie, too, when we think of those hot summer days and the pavement getting so hot indeed, but I mean, great work there that you're doing with the Arizona State University. I mean, it seems like it's adding so much value. Now, obviously 2020, COVID pandemic has, certainly impacted what's going on, but talk to me a little bit about how it's impacted the city's waste operations and diversion efforts as well.
Another really great question. Thank you so much for the opportunity to respond to this question. Absolutely. So just to give you a little bit of context about our operation, the City of Phoenix Public Works Department provides curbside refuse and recycling services to 400,000 single-family residential households. So by ordinance, the city does not service commercial or multifamily housing developments. We do provide service to government organizations like other government organizations, schools, nonprofits, but really our bread and butter are those single family residential. Of course, with COVID, people have been staying at home more. There's less to do out and about. Some places have had stay at home orders. We, a lot of businesses had been shut down for some time. And so folks were staying home more. And so yeah, it absolutely had an impact. So before COVID, each year the city was managing about 1 million tons of trash to landfill, and in addition, another 120,000 tons of recyclables at our 2 MRFs. What we've seen since COVID is about a 20% increase in those materials, and mostly on, unfortunately, the landfill side. We offer a bulk trash collection for our customers 4 times a year, and we've seen those materials go up by 15%. So while we are seeing more recyclables, we're seeing even more trash because people are staying home. And so, that it's not only impacted the volume of materials and the way we do business, but it has impacted our diversion efforts. And right now we're floating around 34%. And that is a bit of a reduction from what we had achieved prior. So yeah, there have definitely been significant impacts related to the COVID-19 pandemic for our solid waste services operations.
So lots of challenges there. Brandie, thank you so much for bringing us up to date and really looking at what you're doing when we think about part of that project to reimagine Phoenix. So, lots that we can learn there and lots that other cities can learn. So really, the Deputy Director of Public Works there from the City of Phoenix in Arizona, Brandie Barrett. So that was great to be brought up to date with some of the tremendous efforts that's going on there. And indeed, lots of cities from around the world, we can all learn from each other. So it's always good to see what's going on in other cities. So lots to be done too. So thank you so much. Now, when we look at what's new for 2021, of course, I want to keep everybody interested in what we're going to do and what we're planning for you. Everything Architecture is going to be a very exclusive event where architects and designers can actually explore carefully selected innovation and aspiring projects, services, and materials. So really, this is something, of course, at the Big Five 2021, we want to make sure that we have lots of new and interesting and very, very exciting projects in the works for you, and really looking at the revolutionary solutions that will be presented there at Everything Architecture. So it'll be great, generating high interest already. So make sure that you're many of the architects and designers in that community and reach out and talk to us about it because it's really, really interesting.